Hey, we are looking today at the Kizlyar Prime, Optimus Prime. So this is an unusual knife. I have never handled a Kizlyar before. Now the thing about Kizlyar is they're quite abundant in Australia. We get loads of these knives and they're really easy to find. They have a web store that sells in Australian dollars. It's very much an Australian-ish, operation. Well, obviously not though because they're a Russian company. But there you go. We've just seemed to be, never wanting for a Kizlyar. However, this is the first one I've reviewed, sent to me by my much appreciated, mucho long subscriber and viewer, Killer Deegan. So he bought, I reckon, a couple of these that come out with this similar G10 pattern, the black and the red. Looks kind of devilish, if you ask me. Look at that little pocket clip with the cheeky little tail as well. Anyway, this is going to be a knife that you either like the look of or hate the look of, I think. I don't like the look of it, to be honest. I must say it's just not for me. Just a couple of aspects of it, I guess. But overall, it's a very well put together knife for sure. So $150 is what you'll pay for this bad boy. This image here shows my revised edge of it. I'll talk about that later, but what Killer Deegan suggested I did was edge test it out the box with the factory edge, so that is exactly what I did. So I did my edge testing with the factory edge. It cut the rope 75 times. You're all familiar with my rope cutting test. Keep going until it no longer slices freely held paper. So 75 times on the factory edge. The factory edge felt a little bit broad. I'll get into that later. So I workshopped it. Put it on the kitchen knife guide, put a 20-degree grind on it, which made the bevel go a little bit higher and a little bit thinner as well. So then it did 105 cuts, which is definitely in line with what you would expect from D2, similar to what a Ontario Rat 1 has performed for me before. No worries whatsoever. So good performance, seems to be definitely D2. Best thing about it, it lost its edge, but then a bit of stropping, and that's just on my Tormek wheel, but it would work just fine on your, strop, and it was just fine. Back to super, paper slicing sharp. So awesome job. After I'd sort of did my edge modification, first on the workshop, and then I thinned it out a little bit more again on the Tormek and made it a bit higher. It does crazy good thin slicey stuff, especially for a fairly thick knife. This isn't a scalpel for sure. It's kind of made towards, I would suggest, endurance more than anything. So what did I do to the blade? Well, what I did was I got it on my Tormek and I took some of the, I always refer to it as the shoulder. I pulled that edge, that silver part, back a little way, making it a little bit slicier, and I'm pretty confident that D2 can handle it. This is how it was. So if you think of, this is the, so these are the flats of the blades here that I'm drawing. So I'll show you on the blade which parts I mean. So that's sort of that part there, and that part there, like the stock of the blade. And then down here is the saber grind. So that's sort of the secondary bevel, or even the tertiary bevel, really. So that's the saber grind there, right? And the way it came from the factory was with a sort of fairly abrupt little edge like that is how I would suggest I would draw it. That's how it kind of felt to me. Right on that tip, absolutely, it was sharp. It shaved hair off my arm, and it felt like a really good, sharp edge. Watch how I write very sharp upside down. Anyway, not too bad. My upside down writing isn't terrible. However, so that was absolutely very sharp. Nothing wrong with it. The initial user will probably be, fairly impressed. Hey, good factory edge. Shaves hair off my arms, slices paper. But as I did, cuts as I used the knife, I sort of just felt like it was getting hung up. So what I did was removed those little bits of steel there. So I'm confident it's not made it too fragile, because then I've gone and used it a whole bunch afterwards and it stayed the same. So when I removed those bits of steel there, it kind of made the very sharp last a little bit longer. All over those parts, from the tip right down to that sort of beginning of that saber flat. So I was just going to draw up close again what I did. So that's what it was, and then it became, I hope this isn't boring for you, but I always liked these sort of explanations. So it became this. So it went from that to that down to the the tertiary or the saber grind. If you get what I mean, I do hope you get what I mean. So anyway, because of that, it did feel like it really boosted the knife's both cutting and slicing performance. And yeah, sure enough, when I tested it before and after, it definitely made it feel better. So the factory grind on this one, I guess I'm really long-windedly trying to say, the factory grind on this one had resistance. So these 2 points here, as you're cutting through, the lines indicate the downward cut through things. Those points they felt like they hang up on things. So when you lengthen the bevel just a little bit, and this isn't going to be new to anyone who sharpens knives, but this is kind of just how my critique of the factory edge. By making it like the right-hand picture there, or the left-hand picture, sorry, it feels like the stuff flows past it quicker. So both in my rope cutting test, the second one, which the workshop went some way towards improving like this as well, made it feel a lot better. So I was happy with my improvement, and I would suggest that probably a bit more risky to put these sorts of edges on from the factory, but there you go. Now, the other thing that I'm particularly not happy with is, as you see here, I'm cutting the cheese. I prefer to cut the cheese with my wife around as well, so she experiences it too, but she wasn't here this time, so I cut it on my own. But you'll see as I cut the cheese, you see what that stupid thumb disc is doing? The point of this is thumb discs are stupid. They hang up on things. And yeah, this isn't a cheese knife, obviously not, but thumb studs do that way less. Yeah, so just another little thing that I would definitely change about the knife. I'd go thumb stud, thumb hole. Pretty much thumb disc is my last choice in an opening method. I don't actually quite know the benefits of the thumb disc. Do you? If you do, please let me know in the comments, because I am genuinely curious. I'm not just being sardonic, for sure. So then I took the knife to some wood just to sort of test my new edge, and no problems at all. No rolling, no chipping, no splitting, so I haven't forced the geometry too far. However, listen to this. That, my friends, is blade play. And that developed during my first rope cutting test. Just a little bit, but it's a clickety-clack, and it is not a endearing feature. It does not improve your confidence in the blade. And yes, I'm sorry to my buddy Kizlyar, but it happened, and I'm certainly going to report on it. So yeah, a bit of blade play developed. I don't know if that's a tolerance issue or the lock bar is a little bit poorly sprung, or I don't know, but there we go. This is the knife in pocket. It carries pretty deep with this little devil tail clip, and it carries just fine. Opens and closes, in and out of the pocket. You see there, I mean, the red's not invisible, but it's certainly deep enough to be able to carry it pretty happily in Australia. I'm going to do a review of these pants one day as well. These are the best pants I've ever owned. They're Kathmandu pants. Now, that's going to be my next review, I think. They're awesome. Great for the EDC. So anyway, overall, like, just a couple of little things. That factory edge and that play that developed are sort of things that I really don't like. The thumb disc, I guess, is a matter of taste, but I don't know. Comparisons. Opinel number 8 above and standard Swiss Army knife below. Cold Steel Mini Lawman above, Cold Steel American Lawman below. The American Lawman is a great knife, about the same price too. Schliech Bowie above, CRKT Pilar below. What an eclectic mix. Spyderco Police 4 above, Zero Tolerance, ZT 0220 below. It's kind of like that large to mid-size EDC. Those are the specs on the screen provided from the Kizlyar site. So yeah, it's got it's got pretty standard specs really. It's about the same size as an American Lawman, a little bit bigger than a Delica, a little bit smaller than an Endura. Look, overall, it's not a bad knife. It's just got a couple of things that I didn't particularly love about it, which I'll sum up in my pros and cons coming up. Thank you very much to Kizlyar for lending it out to old mate, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye.